Welcome back to Opa Podcast, episode 90. Today, we will be recapping the Gophers' win over the Terrapins and preview our next matchup against the Illini. Today, we have the full crew. So, first of all, say hi, Soup.
Hello.
Griffin.
The guy who was miraculously first on the call today. Hello.
Wyatt.
That's me.
And me, Jason O. Guys, let's get into it. So, the Gophers last weekend defeated Maryland 48-23, moving us to 5-3 overall, 2-2 in Big Ten play. Let's get into Necton or start of the game. There's a lot of names to go in here, guys. So I think we'll go Wyatt first, Griffin, then Soup, and I'll be last.
How dare you do this? This is disgraceful.
Quick vamp.
So, all right, if I'm going to start, I'm going to pick Justin Wally. Welcome to the program, Justin Wally. It's nice to have you. First pick 6 of his career, is my understanding.
Correct.
What a way to do it. That's a big one. We love to see it, and it's just like an overall good game for the entire secondary, but you know, that's the franchise right there. That's our boy.
Griffin, how about you?
I realize this one is kind of a low-hanging fruit maybe, but I'm going with Brosmer. I like how comfortable he looked in the pocket. It looked like he was having fun. He was making great throws for contested catches. He wasn't necessarily missing receivers. Like, he looks like he was going through his progressions, and he was confident in all of his throws, and he was consistently making them.
I mean, stats-wise, he was 26 of 33 on passing, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no INTs. All right, Soup, how about you?
Man. God, give me Elijah Spencer. How's that?
Yep, love that one.
99 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he had a really nice day, and I think at the beginning of the year we all talked about who's going to step up as their second pass catching option behind Daniel Jackson. From the receiver position, at least, I think it's very clear that it is Elijah Spencer, and I love that. It's going to be really, really hard to replace both him and Daniel next year, but it is really fun to watch them right now do all the good stuff. It's just, I think Elijah's done a really good job of just refining himself as a receiver. Routes are much more detailed this year. He is blocking really hard in the run game when asked to do so, and he's making some really great contested catches, and I think Max really trusts him. And just, shout out Elijah Spencer.
Yeah, his attention to detail. When I was going back and looking at the highlights, every single catch he had, he was sitting there. He's like, okay, eyes on the ball. I got the ball. Like, let me drag this toe. Let me make sure this foot's in. Like, it's kind of rare to see that because everyone wants to, like, they see the ball and they're like, okay, I got it, and then they turn their head early. I was like, he's getting down to the basics, and he is, like, as you kind of said, refining himself. But you just look at all those little things as the plays happen, and you're like, okay, this is like he's doing it right.
I think not just Elijah Spencer, but if I have to, I have my separate Necton, but I think I have to give it to the entire receiver core because we can't sleep on D-Jack, who had 9 catches for 117, also with 2 tutties. And then later in the game, like Nick Callerup, Jamison Gears, Lemecki, and Marcus Major, and obviously Darius Taylor had their hand in the passing game to get max 320 yards on the day. Like, kudos to all of them, honestly, because things were clicking. No drop passes from Jamison Gears, like usually to start off the game, right? As we've seen prior to the bye. So I'd say give that, like, honestly, kudos to Elijah, but I think over at the receiver core just dominated this game. And then my official Necton's actually going to someone who hasn't been doing well. Mr. Dragon Kesich. Welcome back, my good sir.
Golf clap.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know he has been like missing, especially that on that right side of that upright, and I was a little worried watching the replay of my game recording that he might miss it, but he didn't. Was in the upright, so we'll gladly take that. So, Mr. Dragon Kesic, you're my Necton of the week.
Doesn't matter how it goes through, just needs to go through.
That is correct. So, getting into it, guys.
Really quick before we move on, I just want to shout out the offensive coordinator again, because this was just an incredible game plan. I think it's, if we can segue into the offense here, but I just, if we're highlighting people for the week, I think we also have to shout out Greg Harbaugh, because this is Harbaugh, sorry. This is just another, just fantastic plan from him.
Yeah, let's get into offense. I think the big thing was that passing, very amazing, especially I know we talked about it, and I think that stats may lie, during our conversations outside, like on our snap group, how we weren't really running the ball and it didn't force it.
Yep.
Okay, that, first and second down, we try to run it, didn't work. Okay, let's stick with what Max and these guys know best and throw it, and we get these great first down conversions. I think this might be our, in terms of game wise, our season high of third down completions, I feel like.
Yeah, they were, I think, the most efficient on third down that they were all year. Great. They looked fantastic coming off the bye, which is exactly what you want to see, right? They looked absolutely unstoppable in the first quarter. Just looking at the win probability chart here, it was at 99%. On play 33 of the game, which is probably still in the first quarter, I would guess. And it never got back down below 96%. So, good to see that dominance. And I think I'm seeing if I have their third down.
9 for 13.
There you go. That's really good. Really, really good. So,
better than most teams are doing week to week.
Way better than they are on average.
Certainly way better than we are on average, yeah.
Well, even yards per pass. We're talking about, we're averaging a first down every throw.
Yeah. It's, something else I want to point out here, which is why I think they got off to such a hot start. Average starting field position for this game, Maryland was on their own 18. Minnesota started on their own 36. Literally 18 yards better of field position to start every drive on average. It's just really good.
I think
it certainly helps when you're generating turnovers on that front. But
yeah,
that's we'll get to that when we get to the defense, because it's too soon to really dive into that.
Yeah.
But on the offensive side of that, they capitalized on those turnovers, right? They scored some points off of it, whether it was, touchdowns, field goals. They made the most of them. And I think something else that's, really just interesting to think about is after the game, I don't know if you guys heard any of Mike Loxley's comments after the game.
None.
He said, "We were not going to let them beat us running the ball."
Uh-huh.
Which, Mike Loxley, I really appreciate you not watching any game film on this team this year. Because I don't know how you watch this Gophers team this year and come away with, we're not going to let the run game beat us. It just doesn't make
that's
any
just
sense.
A bonkers remark.
Yeah.
You didn't watch a single game of tape?
Well, what happens is
UCLA.
any game that we've played this year, literally even the FCS games where they didn't run the ball that well until the game was over. So I don't know. That's a weird one for me. College football coaches stay just being the most in your own galaxy brain people of all time, because you're just undefeated. But with that being said, one thing I do want to highlight for this team is the explosive play rate for this game was still just 3%. They did a really good job, hitting on some big ones when they needed to, but they were really more just matriculating the ball down the field. But just to contrast it with Maryland's explosive play rate for the day was 11%, and they were up in like the 78th percentile. We're down in the 4th percentile. And that's why, Maryland's probably getting a lot of that back in garbage time, I would guess. But I just think it's interesting to see this offensive performance from a team where they don't really have a lot of explosive. They're just able to matriculate the ball down the field, 71% on third down, 60% in the red zone, right? Like, sure, you might not have been super explosive for the day, but your EPA without explosive plays is still 3. Like, you're still positive moving the ball without the explosive plays, which I think is like a much better picture for this team than there was before, where it was you're kind of depending on that one explosive play every drive to like, all right, here we go. Now we're rolling. Where now it's just, no, we're good. We'll move this down the field. We're going to punch it in when we get down there. It's totally fine. Not a worry at all. And it was just really, really nice to see that.
But despite add that on top, Soup, though, even though that was the plan, like matriculate the ball down the field using our receiver core, it didn't stop the explosive plays from happening. Like Darius Taylor had that long ass touchdown in the top of the fourth quarter. Like those still matter in some way because it kept us they kept going for points, which I think is another conversation point about this offense. Like they never take the foot off the gas. I know. I think.
I don't know.
Hold. Did you? No. Nuh-uh. No.
You want to get into this now?
I specifically said in the group chat they do take their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that bugs me because we see it all the time when PJ gets a big lead is they stop scoring at that rate. They just slow way down. And it used to be because they were just trying to run the ball, roll, run down the clock. But in this game where you're throwing the ball around as much as you did, I don't understand how we're still a team that just the scoring slowed way down after the first quarter. And it does feel like PJ's taking his foot off the gas. It does feel like
are 1,000% correct. They got up 21-0, and you cannot convince me that PJ didn't get in the headset and go, all right, let's start running the ball. Right?
Yeah, and it's
because that's what it looked like.
It's so unbelievably frustrating to see the offense doing something that's working, and it kept working. Maryland wasn't adjusting to Maryland, and probably part of that is that Maryland, it all happened in the first quarter. Maryland didn't even have halftime to adapt.
I mean, they also didn't adapt.
Yeah, they never ultimately did adapt, but when you're up 21-0 in the NCAA, where every point matters and every point determines, how the committee looks at you, how, potential recruits look at you. This is a league where the blowout is not like this taboo thing. It happens every year, all the time. So why can't we do that like other teams do it?
I mean, this was a blowout, to be fair. To be fair to them, what I'll say is when there's going to be no better time to try and figure out your run game against a conference opponent that you're up 3 touchdowns on in the first quarter, right? Like, if there's ever a time to say, hey, let's try and figure out the run game with some live bullets, which we had said they should do earlier in this year. And I believe, Jason, on our bye week episode, I said I want to see some under center and some under center play action. First play of the game, under center play action strike to Daniel Jackson. Just right off the bat for them. Just 24-yarder to start the game. Awesome. And I think that what happened was they got up and PJ's nature kicked in of one, he wants to sit on the ball. We all know that. Whatever, that's fine. But it stopped working because then Loxley was like, oh, here are all my run blitzes I spent all week preparing because this is what I thought you guys were going to do. And the Gophers only had 0.51 line yards per carry. That's terrible. But they did have about 6 yards of highlight yards per rush. I mean, a lot of that's going to, again, be skewed towards Darius. But it shows that their running backs were breaking tackles. I thought the run game was getting a little better, obviously, as the game wore on. It's still not consistent to where I would like it to be. I still think schematically they could do a better job of scheming up mid to outside runs because they just went back to trying to run the ball in between the guards again. And I was just like, wow, this hasn't worked all year. I don't know why you think it's going to work now. And it didn't. And if you take away Darius's 50-yard run, which I know it's like, oh, you can't do that because it happened. It's like, sure. But he's like 2 yards per carry on the day. It was tough sledding out there. Teams are just trying to take him away. And I think Max is now showing that that's not going to beat us. And if you want to do that, especially if, Maryland, like I said to you, Wyatt, I don't think they adjusted. What they did was...
You're absolutely right about that. They did not... And you can see it when Mike Loxley says we weren't going to let them beat us on the ground.
Yep.
Because that's just like... Clearly you haven't watched tape, and you probably didn't watch the first half of the football game.
Yeah, so they just played man the whole day. And I think they saw that Max does a good job of identifying zones and the soft spots of it and hitting the guys who, find those soft zones. But
even all the DBs were just like bailing on coverage. They're just sitting there like 5 yards off the receiver.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
they're playing man, but not press man.
Yep.
So what Greg Harbaugh did was just like, I'm going to run every crosser. I'm running shell cross. I'm running drive. I'm running deep overs. I'm running every single thing across the field because you cannot run with our receivers, especially from that kind of leverage. And he just kept pounding it and pounding it and pounding it. And I think that was great. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but we had a point in the game where like they were hitting that like deep over route 2 or 3 times a drive. They were hitting it for 10 plus. And it was just like, yeah, they just can't cover Daniel or Elijah right now. They just can't cover them on these man beaters. And it was just, like I said earlier, for Harbaugh. I mean, phenomenal plan. Great calls, great design, understood exactly what the other team was going to attack you with, and then you saw it play out, and you just kept hitting them. And you know, Wyatt, to their credit, they got away from it. They had like 2 drives of trying to run the ball, it not working, and then they went, okay, let's not do that anymore. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, I understand them trying it in this game where you're up that big in the first quarter, where you still have time to kind of get away from it again, and you're figuring out against, a team with some pretty good athletes like Maryland. And you're definitely going to have to run the ball this week if you want to beat Illinois. And it's still just, I don't know, it's still just not good enough. And I think a lot of it is the line play is just still not good enough. They're doing a great job protecting Max as a passer, but for whatever reason, the run blocking is just bad.
It's crazy to me how much that offensive line play has flipped on its head.
Sure.
Because, for how many years now have they struggled to protect the pass? And, we've been a run first team because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden we've done a complete 180 and we just cannot create running lanes to save our lives. And
Yeah, it's an
and
interesting
suddenly we
conundrum,
can.
right?
It's very interesting to just see it out of nowhere change like this, because I don't think any of us would have predicted that this is what was going to happen with the offensive line this season.
No, I mean this is
Is
kind of like conceptually, it's a very different team than I think we all expected, right? Like Max Brosmer, oh my God! Like, did anyone expect to see him play this well?
no, and I think there's positives there for sure. Particularly seeing the passing game flourish is something that I hope that PJ remembers.
I
And
mean, to rattle off names of a quarterback, the last time we haven't seen a quarterback perform this well was Tanner Morgan in 2019.
I think Max is playing better.
I was
Mark?
going to say
I was gonna
Max
say
Max is
he's playing
outplaying.
better. Yeah,
And I don't think that's no shot at Tanner, but like I think the offenses were very different. I think Max separates himself from Tanner where he's a little bit better of an athlete. He's able to move and kind of escape these negative plays, I think, a little better. And I also think he, other than that, though, I mean, he's doing a good job taking care of the football, but Tanner did that as well. But they're just, it's interesting to see because, I mean, someone's going to take a flyer on Max if he keeps playing like this, you guys. Like, he'll end up in the NFL. It's somewhere. Like, even if it's just on a practice squad, which would be great for him.
which we would love to see because I don't think it's been a very long time since a former Gopher quarterback has been on a roster, even practice squad at this point.
Yeah,
So.
Tanner had a cup
Tanner
of coffee
Morgan
with the whitest quarterback room of all time, if you remember.
the
Kenny
Steelers.
Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Tanner Morgan quarterback room.
It is.
And we had
it
the
is one of
Leidner.
the quarterback rooms of all time.
Leidner experiment.
The Leidner experiment with the Vikings.
And the 2 weeks he was a first-round pick. Remember that? That was cool.
But yeah, I think, guys, that's all very good points. 'Cause I don't know. I think the reason that I thought we still have a foot a little bit on the gas, but like not completely, how like quarter one and part of the second quarter, was just that if this was a PJ, for me, if this was a normal PJ team, we wouldn't be scoring touchdowns in the third and fourth, and it would just settle for field goals as well. And obviously we did have 2 in the second quarter, right?
They scored 3 touchdowns in the second half.
Was it 3? I thought it was just...
Yep. I'm looking at it.
I see 2.
Quarter 3, 15 minutes, touchdown.
In quarter 4, 1 touchdown.
Holy crap, I can't read.
Did you misread Maryland's?
No, I hopped back. I saw the 28-second field goal, and it was right next to the third quarter. So it's just like, yep, that counts.
All good, all good. But no, I think that was just what I was seeing, because I may be wrong, and you can correct me on this, but I don't remember in the in recent seasons that in terms of conference play where we blew out an opponent to this level and we still kept
like tape to tape, you mean? Yeah,
like and kept passing the ball to, obviously because we couldn't run the ball for the life of us, and still get to, like, in this case 48-23. And the reason why the game was that score was because they put in their backup quarterback or their other quarterback, who was just on catch-up mode and garbage time, right? So that was my thought. Again, not in depth as super wide here, but I thought actually it wasn't too bad. It's just I felt like the defense sort of got gashed a little because we were dealing with an unknown quarterback, and I just think we weren't really covering because at that point we're just playing with the lead, right? So
the defense I understand, because once they get that lead, they sort of play this soft coverage and that's where some of these explosive plays come from, is that the coverage is soft because they're,
up 30,
trying to, for if Maryland's going to, make plays, they're going to make them relatively short, and those plays are gonna eat clock.
But that's
And
not what ends up happening, right?
And that's not what ends up happening because our tackling isn't that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we want to move to defense, we can. I guess for offense, the last things to really say about it are, let's keep the momentum rolling. They're improving. I mean, overall, I think they're improving, but they need to be more complimentary on offense right now. Their early downs EPA per play is still really bad, and I think that's partially due to an inability to run the ball and easily stay ahead of the sticks. Because handing the ball off for like 4 yards on first down is one of the easier things you can do, right? Your EPA per rush is negative 0.02, which is 90th in the country. So it's just not good. And it needs to be better if they want to like beat teams with not with real defenses, but like with defenses like this Illinois team who, they know you have not beaten them. They're coming after you, especially after just getting whooped by Oregon. So,
All right, go for defense.
Defense.
I mean, it's tough to complain about a defense that scores points.
Sure is.
And a defense that, on top of scoring points, creates scoring opportunities for the offense.
Second in the country in interceptions, I believe.
But
that
now,
would not surprise me.
Yep.
But now that we have a solid defense, now we can criticize the nitpicky things.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, Wyatt.
Yeah, I mean,
we're in a good situation right now.
I want to start with some praise here because they deserve it. Justin Wally deserves praise for his pick six. Coy, I have no idea what we have gotten ourselves into here, but this
Coy's a two-way player now.
Coy's a two-way. Coy can play every phase of the game, and it just is this the best safety that we have ever had?
No, that's crazy.
But is he going to be?
Right. I mean, maybe, but he's currently not.
No, yeah, like I know there's a long ways to go in Coy's career.
I mean, Antoine probably even had a better freshman season than he did. Is currently having. I mean, he had more picks, but Antoine had return touchdowns.
Well, that's a little bit apples to oranges because have you seen this return coverage? But
I don't think it's gotten better.
It hasn't gotten better. It's
but you see the explosive nature of Coy when he's literally grabbing an interception, immediately spinning off the tackle.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then he's just darting down the field, and you're just waiting for that one block to set him free.
He was so close. If he didn't have to stiff arm Justin Wally, he would have scored, I think.
But then
Coy Parents puts 200% into every single play that he makes, and I love to see it.
I mean, if you, I listened to the Paul Allen interview of Coy Paris today, and Coy was like, he's a young guy, and in hindsight, he's like, I should have just stayed towards the sideline instead of going back inside. Because
and he'll learn that over time. Yeah. But I mean, I'm never gonna criticize him now because it's like we got the pick, end of story. But I hate when people go east west. It's like he'll learn to just continue north south, and he'll make the plays.
That's my point. He's gonna keep getting better and keep learning, and he's just scratching the surface. I know Soup. I get it. He's not gonna I agree with you that Antoine had the better freshman season, but I think the trajectory of Coy, I think is just you can't look away at that. Even he's getting a lot of national recognition. And the Ohio State fans are pissed at Ryan Day of not being able to flip his commitment from Minnesota to Ohio State.
That's too bad.
But I was like, boo-hoo, he's our guy.
I'm
But
watching the replay of the return right now after listening to what Griffin said. And yeah, you know what? I think if he keeps this inside, he scores. But
mhm.
because he's running down the sidelines, and then what happens is there's somebody blocking the quarterback into the sideline. Looks like Cody Lindenberg is pushing the quarterback out of bounds at the sideline, and then he goes out of bounds. Coy, I think, is trying to get around him, and then instead of cutting back to the right and just keeping it up the sidelines, he's worried about this offensive lineman right in his face, and I think he's just so used to like you just see the flash of color, and he's just cutting inside away from it, you know?
But then when he cuts in, there's 4 red helmets
Well,
immediately surrounding
the
him.
thing is that offensive lineman's not catching him to the sideline.
Right.
If he cuts back to the sideline, he doesn't have the angle on him, he's not catching him. But the offensive lineman gets a hand on him just enough so he bumps into Justin Wally, and then they've got 3 guys right there. So cool though.
But again, we're just nitpicking, but it's just great to see again 2 major turnovers, especially in the first
Oh,
quarter.
that first one.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy. That's going to make some NFL team very happy seeing that on film. Just straight up playing the quarterback's eyes. I don't know if you heard him after the game. He said they scouted that basically this quarterback likes to hit the bottom of his drop and rip it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I was just watching his eyes. He hit his back foot and he went to throw the ball and I just broke on it. I mean, even the receiver had already kept going because I think it was an option route and the receiver was going to be taken off. There's a miscommunication there, I think, on their route. But, I mean, Wally just sticks his foot in the ground because he sees the quarterback do it himself and hits him right in the face.
And earns himself his first pick 6 in his career as a Gopher.
You won't have an easier one.
Yep.
Otherwise, on defense, I thought they played really well for the time that they should have been in there, which is what I'll say.
I mean, I will say this: the Big Ten officiating crew actually calling holding calls.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, it's nice, but I don't know. Just I don't know if you guys heard PJ's comments or whatever about why he left the starters in as long as he did, because John Joyner went down towards the end of the game, and I had to remove myself from the stadium because it was either that or I was gonna jump onto the field and be like, "Give me the headset, take all the starters off," as the police drag me off the field. But I had to leave because it's just well, 1, the game's over, and 2, why is John Joyner on the ground with 2.5 minutes left? This is terrible. So, yeah.
I want you to know that I saw that happen and I immediately thought of you, Soup.
Yeah, I was livid. Oh my god.
I was sitting there how does Soup feel right now?
I mean, let's talk about it.
Well, what happened
I know
was
PJ went on a little bit of a tangent in his post-game press conference about, I think Andy Greeter was when I asked him why keep the starters out. And
he said PTSD from Illinois and Northwestern is basically what he said.
Yep, in summary.
Which is ridiculous to me. Sorry, PJ. Get out of your own bald head. This is crazy. It's a completely new season. It's a completely different team. And he was like, I wanted to stress to the team that they have to play all 60 minutes, right? Right. That doesn't matter.
Not when they do 60 minutes of work in 45.
That doesn't matter exactly. When you're up 20 with 10 minutes left, you have played it's not about playing all 60 minutes. It's about playing a complete game. And sometimes the game is over before the clock is over. And that usually only happens in games like this where you're up more than 15 points or whatever. And it's just, I don't get it. And I think part of the reason they gave up, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter is because they just were I'll tell you this right now. If I'm on defense and and he's sticking us out there and we're up, at the time, what were we? What is it? 31 what 40, yeah, like 48 to like 10 or whatever at the time.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah. I am not trying that hard. I'm not trying to get hurt.
I mean, that's why I and at the moment, because I came in towards like the fourth quarter of the game, and I noticed like Ethan Robinson was like kind of on soft, but I was like, it makes sense in hindsight though. Like they're not trying to get hurt, and then the unfortunate part, besides Jaw Jordan, Aiden Gooseby I think got hurt too, and
Who's been playing very well this year.
correct, and same with Kerry Brown. Like besides those two, along with Coy, that's your safeties right there. I'm sorry, Coleman Bryson, you know
Coleman's good though.
he is good, but
Coleman might be playing some linebacker here soon.
But the issue is, those were the guys that were hurt, especially Kerry and Aiden for like what the 7-game stretch before the bye, and they finally are healthy enough post bye to play again. And now I'm like, this is not what we want, especially after we had the bye that we wanted.
Especially when you're thin on defense, because there's a point in time in the game where they had 4 safeties on the field, because I don't think they wanted to dip into their corner depth behind corner 3 or 4 for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Coleman Bryson lined up at the will linebacker, and then you had Coy and Kerry Brown, and you had Aiden Gooseby out there. You had Gooseby and Kerry Brown playing safety, or no, you had Gooseby and Coy playing your safety spots, and Kerry Brown was your nickel. Like, that safety room is deep and good, and I think Coleman Bryson getting some snaps at will linebacker might not be the worst thing in the world. I kind of like that. I think they should keep going on that one. Maybe put another 5-10 pounds of muscle on them and keep doing that. Because, I think your safety room is stacked right now, and you need to find depth at linebacker for next year especially, and that's like more of a long-term play. But even right now, because, I don't really trust any linebackers not named Cody Lindenberg or Maverick Baranowski. I think part of the issue is that they're very thin on defense, and you were kind of asking for something bad to happen to you by leaving your starters out in a game that was completely non-competitive at that point. Even if it's just to like send this culture message, which I like understand PJ wanting to do, and it's like you don't treat the game differently, especially in the Big Ten, blah blah blah. But like you got to be smart, and you got to understand the rest of the season is in play, and it's also completely antithetical to then putting in a quarterback not named Drake Lindsay at the end of the game, right? Because you're not putting Drake Lindsay out there because you don't want to burn his red shirt, so you're worried about his availability moving forward. But on defense, you're still running out your starters, and it's just like, I just thought it was interesting that they put the third quarterback in when on offense when it was done.
Yeah, number 14, I think.
Yeah. And it was just, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because it's kind of like, to me, it felt like talking out of both sides of your mouth. Where it's like, well, what if Max gets hurt? We got to protect Drake Lindsay's red shirt for the year, but we're not really worried about depth at all in any way on defense. And I don't get it. Like, to take your offensive starters, I mean, once Max got to 300 yards, I think everybody was like, all right, cool, great, sit him down. And then there was like another series of starters, and I was like, why are we doing this? And then there was 2 more series of starters on defense, and I was like, what is happening? And they got real close to getting snake bit by it.
That's the key word, really close, because glad to hear that Ja and Aiden were able to get up and walk on their own power, and hopefully they'll be all right for the Illini game. But it's... And I'm happy. I'm very happy that we're having this conversation because, like, again, it's a win, and we get to nitpick. And this is one of those nitpicks with like WTF moments from head coach PJ Fleck, especially at the end of the game there. Anything else on defense, boys?
This defense is really fun. I love this style of defense. I love what this coordinator's doing. It's very creative. it presents tons and tons of problems for the offense and not like one problem over and over again. You know, it's all about creating havoc and chaos and capitalizing on making big plays. And I just think this team is built for it. I think they have done a really good job of finding playmakers on defense, which was another big question we had at the beginning of the year. And now we've got multiple playmakers on defense. And this coach is, I think, doing a very good job of weaponizing his talent and getting them they're flying around. They are flying around, playing with a ton of speed, a ton of confidence. They're rallying to the football, tackling well. I just, better, parentheses, run game, tackling, still not great. But, like, especially the back end, your DBs, your safeties, you can't throw on this team.
Yeah, and even just to add on to that, like, kind of like how you're saying, like, we're weaponizing. Like, this is me watching the 15-minute like highlight video of all the plays, like the fourth down play that they had on the first drive when Maryland was trying to convert. The pre-snap movement was incredible, right?
Oh, that thing never had a shot either. Like it wasn't like a close. Oh, did we get him? Let's see where they spotted. Oh, it was like, oh hell no, not even close.
Our linemen won the line of scrimmage, and now your linebackers are just there to ensure that like you're going nowhere, that you can at least get pushed over.
Yeah,
like you sit there and it's like you have linebackers that can play defensive end, vice versa. You can have like all your players are not like your defensive tackle is not just your defensive tackle. Your linebacker isn't just a linebacker; they can be a lineman. Like they're all just so like you can plug and play them anywhere. It's fun, as you said. It's fun to watch.
But I think what improved from the bye as well, and the Soup, this is our conversation from last week, remember? That we need these guys to finish, but also if they break away from their job, they have to make the play, right? As what we've talked about is that these guys don't get penalized by the coaching staff.
They're letting people play a little more free, and they're giving them a little more flexibility to make plays and trust their eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you make a mistake, you're going to get killed for that. But they're not going to, they're not going to. One thing I can think of is, like, Kerry Brown makes a great tackle on, like, a 3rd and short run that they try, right? He comes up in the hole, sitting right there waiting for the back, no gain, they have to punt. That happens because he's able to trigger and trust his eyes from the safety position and come down because he's not blitzing, but he immediately saw the run action, hopped right up there and made the play. Whereas before, he might be another step or two, like slow because he's waiting to see the running back get the ball. But he read his keys and he saw I'm sure they had scouted, hey, this is more like maybe a run formation. They like to run it to this guy more. Like that's the kind of stuff that goes in all week. You read all those keys. And then he just trusted him and went. And I think that's like a great example this game of something that they might not have done last year that they're doing this year.
Which is amazing to see, like that, like again, the high risk, high reward. But then also, I know there are moments where like, we were pulling our hairs out or yelling down towards the field, but I feel like they did better even when they had to just do their jobs, when they weren't, like as we mentioned, like that Kerry Brown play or with Justin Wally, like perfect film practice on that quarterback. But I think when they're doing their jobs, this defense can do things and stop them and get a 3-and-out.
I mean, that quarterback was lighting it up the last couple weeks. Like he was looking good. I think he's gonna be good. Like I think he's gonna be like he's a young quarterback. He's gonna be good with some time, I think. But I mean, the Gophers had him in a blender.
Yeah. And again, Billy Edwards, I think he got dinged up a bit towards the end there. But
that's part of it, though, right? They beat the crap out of him.
He's going to do great things in the future. But with this, what we see in this current defense, what they did to improve post-bye, and the things that we're seeing now, like
in the portal,
in the portal as well. This is a very, very fun defense to watch, and I hope for many more good things to come, especially as guys stay healthy and we keep the stretch going, because right now we're 5-8, 8 games in. We got 4 more to go, and
just be careful. This this defense is thin though,
Yeah.
and especially on the defensive line, I think they're incredibly thin. I think they have like 20-ish guys on scholarship on the defensive line, and I think maybe 7 of them see consistent snaps. I don't know why that is, but I just think it's interesting that they really only trust 7 guys, and they have like 20 plus. They have like 20 scholarship defensive linemen.
Yeah, that is interesting. But that's all I got. Anything else, boys, before we move on?
No, fun defense. It's cool to like have the, we're gonna make big plays on defense as well instead of like the bend but don't break kind of, I would say more old school Tampa 2 style that was here before. It's just it's a really fun change of pace.
It is. All right, moving on. Last bit here, special teams. I know I mentioned it just a little bit, but Dragon was my Necton. Reason being, he's 2 for 2 for field goals. He got it in, did miss, and then was also 6 for 6 on PATs. Again, Dragon did his job. I think Mark Crawford didn't punt much that that day. Only 3 punts. Doing what he needs to do, get him inside the 20, right?
That's the Mark Crawford I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Either just a handful of punts or punting from better field position for somebody who isn't really a great punter.
Yep. But the one that still irks me is the kick and punt protections or blocking.
You got one. You got one today.
That is true. Just one.
One that was okay and probably not because of the blocking.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's special teams. I feel like it's still some sort of an enigma because I will say Coy did call a couple more fair catches this time around.
I think, yeah.
But, yeah.
I think you have to just kind of connect the dots, and I think it's the thing we've been talking about this whole time is that I don't think they trust their depth that much. And I think you're going to see that more kind of across college football in this NIL transfer portal era. Guys don't really have to stay at a program and sit on the bench to then play. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of movement. I think the bottom half of your roster is going to have a lot more turnover, kind of similar to the NFL. And you're going to see teams kind of heavily prefer their, A rotation. And I think that's kind of why special teams blocking is bad, because you're mainly not putting your best guys or your starters out there. Maybe that's why they don't trust their depth.
Maybe. But that's all I got on special teams is this.
Well, one thing I do want to talk about before we move on to Illinois is I want to talk about how they ended the half. Because I think something that's interesting about this Gophers team is they've always been very cognizant of the middle 8 and trying to win the middle 8, which is really fun. Which is so interesting for like a team that kind of has like been built up from such a conservative mindset and approach to football. Their obsession with the middle 8 is like very new age and cool to see. And I think when they saw that kick go out of bounds at the beginning of that drive to end the second half, I think before that, I do not think they have anything planned, right? I think they're happy to take the knee and go to the locker room. But that ball goes out of bounds, and I think everybody looked at each other on the sideline and was like, "Oh, why don't we try and do something here?" And I think that's like a really good sign, right?
No, that was a fun drive.
Yeah.
Because
I loved it. I loved everything about playing for points in a spot where nobody expected you to go play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a point of praise that I do have for PJ on that one is you went and did something that's sort of outside of your comfort zone. And to be fair, you still kick the field goal at the end.
Yeah,
But
I
you
would
know,
like to see another shot at the end zone too. Go ahead.
you go and you know drive for points instead of just taking the knee and taking it to the locker room, and that's a step in the direction that we want.
Yeah.
3 is closer to 7 than 0 is.
And also, shout out to PJ again because, you know, I know we're critical here sometimes when he's, deserves it, I would say. But he's got to get praised for, I think, when he's open. He gave this great information about exactly this. He said, because we got the ball back to start the second half, we were able to take the 3 points and be confident that we were going to double dip. Which is saying, if we weren't going to get the ball back to start the second half, we're taking 2 more shots at the end zone. And I think that's awesome. Like, I think that is fantastic. But they were perfectly fine saying, you know what? We got it down here. There's 7 seconds left. Maybe we can run another play. But I think also PJ was more than happy to get Dragan a nice 35-ish, under 35-yard field goal. Little confidence booster. So yeah, I really love that.
No, that was a fun final drive before heading into halftime, and it was glorious because I was like, Jamison Gears catches like a first down, then I think it was Lemecki Brockington, or was it D-Jack that caught a 19-yard D-Jack off the sideline there, or out of bounds. 7 seconds left on the clock. I was like, ooh, are we going to do one more shot at the end zone, or are we going to go for the kick? And then obviously we got the kick. And it was, again, we played for points going into halftime, like legitimately, not because like we had to, but like they did.
Well, they had a plan.
Yeah.
They had a plan. They had thought about, hey, what do we do if this situation comes up? And they executed their plan. And they were agile within the game too, because they were not going to do anything. And then the kick goes out of bounds. And it's like, oh, we should capitalize on this opportunity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And the hope is, can we get more of that for the remainder 4 games?
I mean, we just had a 300-yard passing game with 2 receivers basically at 100 yards and 2 touchdowns each. I think there are times where you can see PJ put his thumb on the scale and try and chew up clock for whatever reason. But I think for the most part, they've been much more aggressive on offense this year in general.
Which we'll gladly take and absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But all right. This concludes the recap for Maryland here. Let's get into our next game. So, boys, our Golden Gophers will be going away to Champaign to face the 24th ranked Illini. Kickoff is at 11 a.m. Central. TV broadcast will be brought to us by FS1 and radio via the 100.3 FM KFAN radio. The Illini are currently 6-2, 3-2 in Big Ten play. Their 3 wins have been against Purdue, Nebraska, and Michigan. And then their 2 losses have been against the currently number 1 ranked Oregon and number 3 ranked Penn State. To look into this team further, offensively, the Illini, quarterback Lute Altmaier, I think he's pretty decent. Just his offensive line isn't. Hence, I feel like he got shellacked a lot against Oregon last weekend. And then defensively, I don't have any stars.
He started out hot and then kind of tapered off.
Yeah. Defensively, from my quick reading and looking into it, it's a Brett Bielema defense. Those guys are rock solid. I don't have any player names on my list here, but that unit, especially after getting shellacked by Oregon, I think they're looking to have a very big bounce back game against us. And these guys have been pretty solid. Like, I mean, they're 6-2 for a reason. Like, they went 3-0 in non-conference, and then, obviously somehow went to OT against a very bad Purdue team, and I think you said it off air, Soup, like they're last in Power Four. Is that right? Purdue, I mean.
Purdue, yeah.
And then Nebraska's a decent team, and Michigan, I don't know what they are these days, but they're but they still defeated Michigan when Michigan was still highly ranked at the time. So, you know, they're I think they're a very physical team, and defensively, and then on the offense, they like to run the ball, and their quarterback can't hurt you. So, I think that's my 2 cents on the Illini offense and defense there. But how about you guys?
I mean, we have top ranked pass defense in the country, and the two names we need to lock up this week are Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. Like those are their two top receivers this year.
Pat Bryant might be hurt.
Well.
Yeah, I think that's why the line is what it is on this game.
Yeah, Pat Bryant got hurt during the Oregon game, that I recall. Yeah.
And I mean, so you have, I mean, we'll just call it two for now. I mean, if you have two star receivers that are far and away your better, the better wide receivers you need to defend, and then you get one, then you're able to use more of your DBs to cover the other ones, and or just do other defensive schemes in mind. And I mean, they have a couple good rushers on their team. They spread the ball out with their running backs. But their top running back only has 300 yards on the year. And Darius is at like over 500 yards or something, even with his bad games. So, I mean, they're a consistent enough offense. Well, they can still put up good points, but as long as you play stout defense, which our defense is more than capable as they've shown to play, I'm feeling very, very good moving into this week.
They have also not been as good on defense as they usually are, right?
Right.
They gave up what? A ton of points to Purdue recently. They gave up 21 points to Michigan. And then they, I mean, Oregon looks unreal right now, but 38 points, right? Like they haven't been as good on defense as you'd expect a Brett Bielema team to be. But at the same time, the Gophers just cannot beat this guy.
When he was at Wisconsin and currently at Illinois, yeah.
I don't think they've ever beat him.
No, we have not, ever.
Which is wild.
Like, this is, besides Iowa being PJ's Achilles heel, for Minnesota football in general, it's Brett Bielema is the Achilles heel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the other monkey to get off your back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't beat this Illinois team for whatever reason. And I think the way to do it is to Maryland game plan, copy, paste. Like, just do that. Make them... Go ahead.
Nope, you keep your thought rolling first.
Sure. I was just going to say, I still think your skill guys on offense are better than their skill guys on defense. They've been wildly inconsistent. I think you can hit them for big plays, but I think you have to be actively trying to put up points on them, right? I'm not sure that they're able to keep up with you right now. I think that should kind of be the formula for this team going forward is max the passing game and then, working the running backs underneath. I'd like to see a return to the swing pass. I don't know where that went. I really like that to Darius, to Marcus Major. I like the under center play action. I like just the under center game in general for this team. I think they're still kind of a little predictable, though. Once they do get under center with their personnel, you can kind of tell based on which tight ends they have out and which receivers they have out, whether they're running or passing for the most part once they do get under center. But and I think that's kind of part of the problem with the run game is that the personnel is a little predictable right now. But I think you just try and put up points on this team. You don't go with the let's drain the clock, ball control game, because that's what they're going to try and do to you. And I don't think you want to play their game.
No, and I like that plan. Like, I love that key to the game. Like, let the offense do what they did against Maryland, or what I feel like what the offense has been doing the last 3 games, passing game wise. Let Max and the receiver core do their thing and cook. And
this defense in predictable passing situations where you're winning, positive game script, 3rd and plus, if you're able to, that's how you generate these negative plays, because you want to make these teams chase you.
And with that in mind, you can certainly open up the run game for Darius and Marcus Major to, get some of their yards, right? And hopefully maybe not run in between the guards for inside zone.
Bring back the toss. Bring back the toss out of the shotgun. And bring back like toss, stretch. Give me some of those runs. Get your offensive linemen out and running. I think they're much better when they're they're able to get off the ball and really go and take it, instead of these, they're running a lot of zone blocking schemes. Let me see some more duo and man concepts. I think that'd be good.
And I think defensively, I know we mentioned it, I think it's just keeping up what they've been doing, which is consistently do their jobs and make the tackles, and then be explosive. I think there's some things that Luke Altmaier does that I think Justin Wally and Ethan Robinson, are the safeties can take advantage of and maybe get some turnovers. Because I think he had 2 picks against Oregon.
Is he fully healthy either? Do we know?
As far as we know, he's expected to play. Or as far as I know, but
let me look.
But
because unlike PJ, Brett Bielema actually answers questions about injuries.
Yeah, well, you look that up. I will also say that the offensive line for them, their offensive line on the Illini side is more better at run blocking than pass blocking. Hence, that's why Luke Altmaier is pretty banged up a bit right now. So I think maybe that's an advantage for the D line and maybe the linebackers, or if you do our nickel package, take advantage of their passing play on obvious passing plays to wreak havoc on their quarterback and get the pressure in. And I think I've seen so far, I think a step up on the D line in general. That doesn't matter if it's on edge or the defensive tackles. These guys are getting to the quarterback. No, it doesn't matter if it's not sacks, but quarterback hits and pressures and hurries, right? It's been very crucial for this Corey Heatherman defense to get these guys off the field. And I think that should be our game plan for the defensive side of the ball. And special teams, I feel I don't know why, I am calling it now, there's going to be a punt or kick return for a touchdown, because I feel of every Illini game these past few years, there's always been one big special teams play, and even with shitty blocking, something's going to happen. So I'm calling it now. That's going to be my
Listen, Jason, that's a dangerous game you're playing there. Let me tell you from experience, you don't want to predict that the Gophers are going to score touchdowns on special teams, because then they don't do it.
Hey, that's my problem to deal with, Wyatt, so I'll take it.
Maybe that's why we're not doing it, because we keep saying that it's going to happen eventually.
If that's and they just that's the they case, keep listening to the podcast and telling us, you can't tell me what to do.
Oh.
Is that what it is? It's a no.
No, do not get a touchdown for the guys on Opa Podcast.
Coy, do it for us.
Also, I am seeing Pat Bryant should be fine for Sunday per Carson Gordy, who's the Champaign sports anchor for Fox, Illinois.
Oh, all right.
Should be good to go on Saturday, said Brett Bielema. He's in the concussion protocol currently, but he is progressing well.
Okay. Nothing on Luke Altmaier then?
Nope.
All right. Well, at this point, just assuming he's in the game, but
I should expect those lines to swing back.
Yeah, I'll mention if you want to pull up the other numbers you have on your sources there, Soup. I'll mention
Yep.
ESPN and Vegas' numbers right now.
Go for it.
I'll start with the match predictor. They're favoring the Gophers 54.3% versus the Illini's 45.7%. That actually skewed after I looked at it yesterday compared to today, so that might change even more now that Pat Bryant is likely to return. And then betting odds wise, Minnesota is -2 in the spread, over under at 45.5.
Yeah, for me, I'm seeing Illinois favored 59.9% win probability. Projected points for them 25, for us 22, so about 3 points to them. And I don't know, that feels correct to me.
With that in mind, let's get into predictions then. So I'll go first. I see Griffin already did it, so he's second. Wyatt third, and Soup is last. I predicted loss preseason, and I really want the Gophers to keep up with their winning streak currently. But for my loss prediction, I'm giving the Gophers 24-26. I think it's going to be a close game that we lose. Griffin?
Yeah, preseason, I was kind of thinking that we'd see more of the Illinois team from past years, so I'm feeling a lot better of me picking a W now. So I went, we're going to, make a field goal with just over 2 minutes left to go up by 6, force the Illini to come score a touchdown. They don't. So 26-20 for the Gophers.
All right. Wyatt?
Do I have a preseason loss here?
Yes.
You do.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that. I'm going to say it's going to be 21-24 Illini. I think it's going to be pretty in line with what the projections are saying. I hope that it's not the case, but Illinois is a good football team. It's hard to argue that.
I mean, you're not wrong. But all right, Soup, you're last.
I'll take an over, though. Illinois by 3, 27-24 is what I would pick if I hadn't picked a win here for the Gophers in the preseason. So we're just going to say Gophers 27-24.
All right. And just to recap this, Griffin, my dog, you are 8-0 in preseason predictions.
God,
I'm told.
I really want to flip this mine to a loss because I don't feel good about this game, and
Yeah.
I also really want to try and catch Griffin. So I know it's a preseason win. I guess we stand on it, but if I had to pick it again
Is this
now,
my opportunity to go get Griff? Am I
Look,
gonna?
all I gotta say is and this is Gopher Sports, right? We have our highs, and we sure as hell have our lows. So I knew going into the season, I'm like, whatever everyone picks as like for the most part as a across the board win or loss, someone has to deviate from normal. I think the only one we all agreed on, what was that? Rutgers, we all said W, and Penn State, we all said loss. Everything else, someone had to be that guy.
Yeah. Just a recap to those listening, and if you're not watching the video version, so Griffin's up 8-0 on predictions. Soup and Wyatt are tied at 6-2, and I am not far behind at 5-3.
This would be the turning point in the season where it gets interesting.
That is true.
If it's a win, I think it seals me for the year. If I lose, all hell breaks loose. Open season.
Yeah, well, what to find out after the game on Saturday. But all right, boys, that ends our preview for the Illini coming up. Do we want to discuss anything else that happened either in college or NFL football?
yeah, I just want to shout out some of like the awards and accolades from this week for the team. So Coy Parrish was Big Ten football defensive player of the week.
Nat Co, right?
No, not Co. And this is his first one, which I mean, I don't know He kind of got robbed the USC game, but whatever.
All right.
Max Brosmer.
Yep, Max Brosmer.
On a lot
Also
of
up there.
awards, yeah. But
He was the
Shrine
Monday
Bowl.
morning quarterback from the Shrine Bowl.
Mhm.
79% completions, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns. That will do it. I think this one's really important. Uniform swag. They were the number 8 uniform of the week. I think that was good. I mean, shout out to the helmets. I think that was sick. Like the uniform on the side. That was super fun.
Yeah, that uniform combo is my favorite so far this season. So far, besides close second is full banana. Like that's a 1-2 right there.
Boy Parrish was also top 5 highest graded true freshman for the week in the Power 4.
Mm-hmm. And I think he's also expanding his record, right, as a freshman.
Correct.
With interceptions, he's now at 5.
And Max Brosmer was the second highest graded Power 4 quarterback.
Who's first?
Talon Green, Arkansas.
Interesting. Okay.
I believe they put up 58 points on Mississippi State.
They did.
Oof.
And he had 314 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Uh-huh.
Including a rushing touchdown. So make that 6 and about 383 yards of total offense.
Dang. That's nice.
It's pretty good.
Is that it for the awards and accolades so far?
Oh, yeah. And Goldie had about 70 bazillion costumes at the game.
Oh, I love it. I wish I was at the game. I heard he did Bye 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 as Deadpool with the
he did
dance team. Nice. But I know we haven't talked about this much in college football, but two schools that are, I think they're still undefeated, Army and Navy.
I think Navy lost.
Navy lost to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Okay.
It was like 52-14. It was ugly.
Oh, okay. Oof. But I was about to say, I'm like rooting for the service academies. Like, holy hell! Like they're, despite Navy losing, right? Like they're doing pretty
that'd be
well.
Wild.
Yeah, because like it's just gonna be weird implications because I think they still have their Army Navy game because it's separate from their normal 12-game calendar. Because like it's tradition. Like you can't skip Army Navy, but the fact that the conversations, if they go to, because they're in the same conference, so what happened, they end up at the conference championship game playing each other, and then later they go to playing Army Navy for the rivalry game. Like I'm enjoying that conversation right now, and I'm loving what the service academies are doing, especially with it. And I'm not sure you guys follow how they work, but they really can't really dive into or use NIL to their advantage, just due to how they're structured. Like again, they're military service academy, and like these guys, once they graduate, they're going straight into,
They have a much larger fund than that, Jason.
Correct. I know, but you know what I mean. Like they go in straight into,
yeah.
If some go to the NFL,
part of the deal is that you have to serve unless you make the league.
Correct. And in this case, like they're likely serving as officers in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, right? So, and it's fun to see, and hopefully hopefully see that scenario play out. But it is fun.
Michigan quarterback Jack Tuttle is medically retiring.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Just now?
Yeah.
Who? What?
Jack Tuttle, Michigan's quarterback, is retiring medically.
So they're gonna rock with Orgy for the rest of the season now?
Was he starting for them?
Tuttle started for
I
them.
believe he had started a game for them.
He started the first half, I think the first 4 or 5 games, and then in the game against us, it was Orgy, and then after that game, Tuttle was back in the game after, I think. I could be wrong. But yeah, he was playing time with David. I think it's David Orgy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Their other quarterback,
Alex.
Alex Orgy. So yeah, I'm surprised he's announcing his retirement now.
Yeah, I'm just seeing it.
Interesting. I mean,
If
that-
we're talking about quarterbacks, I believe Cade McNamara is officially not on the depth chart for this week for Iowa.
Really?
wait, what?
Yeah, that's what I saw earlier. Is
What?
he will not be playing against Wisconsin,
Cade McNamara.
So
which
Yes.
might be the best thing that Iowa's had happen in
That's wild.
years.
so
Wow.
conspiracy theory, like, is he
Bro,
transferring?
bag secured though.
That is true. He got the bag. Like conspiracy theory, like is he hurt? Is he transferring, or is he like just running away with all the money? Like what?
Who, Cade?
Yeah.
No, he's hurt.
That I did not know.
Did you see what they asked Kirk Ferentz who's going to play quarterback, and he said we might rotate. And then someone asked, like, he said, God, I hate this guy. We did it in 81, and it worked out okay. We'll do what's best for the team.
Oh my goodness.
What, bro? You did it 43 years ago, and it worked, so why not try it again? Okay.
Different era of football, old man.
Interesting. Very interesting.
The Big Ten's great.
We love this funky conference.
It's so dumb.
But all right. Anything else before we call it a night, boys?
I'm sorry to bring this up, Soup. I really am. But I just keep laughing at the Tyreek Stevenson situation.
You guys ever wonder what it would sound like when someone hits concrete at terminal velocity?
God, soup.
Oh God. I just sit there and I'm just like, you just cannot, right? Like, Sean Payton mocks the skull chant, Stephon Diggs sideline touchdown.
Dude,
There's just so many of these situations where it's like, how do people not learn?
one of my best buddies, David, was there
Oh no.
with his like whole family, huge Bears fans family. They were there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
Wait, I've been under a rock. Did I miss something against the Bears
Please.
and Commanders?
please no.
Jason,
Hey,
you might have to log off real quick so I can explain it to Jason.
I'm just gonna turn the microphone off while I scream for however long this takes.
This is going to be on the pod. Oh my God.
All right, Jason. So at the Hail Mary play at the end of the game,
We
where
back
the
it up.
Commanders-
I would
Oh,
like to
God.
go further back.
Tyreek Stevenson.
Oh,
So-
even further.
Okay, never mind. No.
Where the Bears are winning the game.
Here, Griff, I'll let you take it on Tyreek Stevenson. Jason, I just want you to know that Caleb essentially scores 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter after playing like garbage for 3 quarters.
Okay.
Scores 2 touchdowns, has like over 100 yards in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But they only score 1 touchdown because they decide to hand the ball off to their third string center, who they line up as a fullback. And of
Oh my
course,
God,
he
he forgot.
fumbles the ball.
Oh no.
So they pick it up. Our defense gets a stop. They punt back. Caleb marches them down the field again. And then they score the touchdown there. So they go up. They get the 2-point conversion. They're up 3. Then, mind you, this whole time, the Bears have all 3 timeouts. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Bears have all 3 timeouts. They are up 3. They have kicked the ball to Washington, and there's 12 seconds left, and they have 1 timeout.
Yep.
Or something. They go up the field, blah, blah, whatever. They run a 12-yard out that the Bears basically just give them because they drop everybody back into the end zone. They play their Hail Mary,
Yep, for coverage.
Hail Mary defense.
Yep.
They give up 12 yards to let them get in. They give them 12 yards, and they don't have any timeouts. Like, just defend the sideline. If you tackle them in bounds, the game's over.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't call timeout there. They're defending a Hail Mary, and they run a 12-yard out. Griffin, take the wheel.
So Tyreek Stevenson is standing in the end zone, turned back to the play, taunting all of the Commanders fans, basically assuming that they've just won the game because how many Hail Marys are actually successful unless your name is Aaron Rodgers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ball is snapped, his back is still turned, still taunting. As Jaden drops back in the pocket and then starts to scramble, he turns around
Receivers
and slowly,
are 20 yards upfield.
20 yards upfield, he slowly engages himself back into the play, right? So he sees Jaden unleash and throw the ball. He as a DB does, flocks to the ball, and then he is the one that jumps in the air and ends up tipping it to Noah Brown in the end zone,
Who he's supposed to be guarding.
who he's supposed to be guarding. So not only did this man have his back to the play when it started and start taunting, he was then the one to tip it to the receiver to end the game.
Oh my goodness, what the
I can hear Soup's pain. Just like, I can.
They had all 3 timeouts. How do you not see your player being an idiot? I mean, vibes are really bad in Chicago right now, you guys. I mean, Jalen Johnson basically said we should have called a timeout and went over the Hail Mary defense before doing it. Like we're like getting like the coaching being questioned by the players and stuff. Like it's all happening, and I'm kind of here for it because they are terrible. And you know what? You guys have opened this can of worms, so you get to hear this now.
All right.
I think the problem is with this Bears team right now is because usually what happens is the bad coaches don't lose the locker room fast enough and they outstay their welcome. And that's what happened to Justin. Is like the quarterback situation before Justin was so bad and weird that, you know, they end up taking Justin, and the coach sticks around too long because you're not sure if he's bad with Mitch or if Mitch is bad, right? Like the situation's kind of like muddy the whole time. So it's like, okay, let's let this coach get a new quarterback. Oh shit, still sucks. We need a new coach too. So now you have Caleb Williams, who I think like any fair NFL watcher would be like, this kid's got it. He's good. He's gonna be like at least the best quarterback the Bears have ever had, which is not a high bar, but like he's got the goods. And I think like if people are honest to themselves and not just like to laugh at Caleb, he's gonna be fine. And I think that's the difference here, is because usually the locker room turns on the coaching staff when they lose a ton of games in a row and they're like just bad. But I think that with this coaching staff, the team is turning on them. This is year 1 for Caleb. This early in year 1 for Caleb. And right after this loss, this kind of halfway-ish mark in the season, because I think everybody knows that the team is better than this. You know what I mean? I think they're like, this roster that we have is better than this.
I mean, your GM Ryan Poles has done his job, right, of getting the talent that they need, even though maybe
but they kept this coaching staff. They kept this coaching staff.
Yeah, and they kept the staff, and
they kept the staff. And now I think the problem is I think everybody was on board with Caleb. Like the locker room and everybody at large with Eberflus kind of like, I think they saw the writing on the wall for Justin midway through the season, and that ran its course. And then they went to everybody was excited for Caleb. Caleb looks really good, and now the problem is Matt Eberflus is 1-13 against teams over 500. Like that's the problem now. The problem is that they lose these spectacular. They've lost 4 games in the last 2 years when they've had a win probability of more than 93% in the fourth quarter.
Oh my!
It's become a point where it's like, okay, I think the players are all looking at each other like what is like we're better than this. This is wild. Like we're not this bad. What's going on? And I think we've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, the coaches are failing us because, with this stuff, Tyreek Stevenson, Cole Kmet said that he thinks some players are having self-discipline issues. That's one of your team captains. Like
it's not what you want to hear, that's for sure.
But Jalen Johnson went on the radio and said he believes the Bears would have benefited from a timeout before the Hail Mary play to catch their breath and reinforce everybody's responsibilities. Everyone does know their role in the play, but sometimes, he said, his point is it all played out too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And even with teams that, like, you go out there and you have, even if you don't have enough time and if the coaches say, in this scenario, this is going to happen, like, they still call a timeout, right? Because you just want to get everyone together. And again, as you said, reinforce. Like, there is nothing wrong with even your team would have a script of like, yep, we're doing this. You just need that extra break. Don't let it play out too fast.
Yeah. I don't know why you don't. It like he said, like Matt Eberflus was like, no, I thought everybody was in the right position because like he refuses to say anything bad about his players publicly. He won't do it, like no matter what. So he's not going to sit there and say anything about like I saw Tyreek down the field and I was trying to get his attention and then they got the snap off. Like he's never going to say that. Like he's going to protect his guys at all times, and it's like super annoying because if he just said that, I think he'd earn a little bit more faith with the fan base. But he just sounds like he doesn't know what he's doing because he's always like, he was always like, no, I thought it was fine. We just have to execute better. And like people were like, well, why didn't you call a timeout there? And he was like, it just played out the way it did, stuff like that. And it's like, dude, like, what? I don't know. So it's vibes are bad right now, and I think it's because this team usually loses the game because they're like way ahead in the third quarter and then they get crushed in the fourth quarter and lose. But your quarterback basically your rookie basically put together 2 game-winning drives. You can only get one of them to work because you're trying to hand the ball off to the fucking third center. With the game on the line. With the game on the line. Not in Jacksonville when you're up 15 points. Like, do that last week. Do that the week before the bye in London when you're rolling on Jacksonville. Do it then. Don't do it with the game on the line.
I was watching that play, and I saw them hand the ball to him, and I turned to my father-in-law, and I said, what the fuck are they doing?
Caleb was cooking that drive, and I can't believe they took the ball out of his hands. That was such... I want him to get one more shot. Not only took the ball out of his hands, handed it to a guy with the number 68 on his jersey. Yeah, your third center, not like you're, you know what I mean? Not even like a good lineman or something like that.
The
like
1970s.
A guy you won't play on the offensive line. You only play him as like this weird fullback.
You're not running Walter Perry out there. It's not what's happening.
They were up 30 in that game, Wyatt. Everybody keeps saying that. Like, oh, it's like the fridge play. Like, that's what they said on the broadcast. I'm like, yeah, but you're up 30 in that game.
Yeah, exactly, though. You're not having fun. You're trying to win a fucking football game.
Yeah, oh my God.
If you're going to take the ball out of Caleb's hands, put it in the hands of a running back.
Yeah, like give Roschon Johnson do it exactly what you do the next drive.
A tight end.
Yeah, they do exactly what you do the next drive. But I would have loved to see one more play action rollout, get Caleb in space, and let him decide if he wants to throw or run it in. And I think that would have been. Then you score 2 touchdowns and the game's over, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like then it's never in doubt. You don't have to do this shit. And then you completely mismanage it at the end. Ending the game with all 3 timeouts is like the worst part.
Then Soup, honest question to you, like just you as the fan, don't tell me what the other fans and the community is feeling on this. Mm-hmm. Do you think Eberflus is gonna be fired mid-season here, or are they gonna truck it out until the end of the season?
The Bears do not fire coaches mid-season, not head coaches. it would be a gigantic shift in like ownership philosophy if that was to happen, because that really does not happen for this team. And I think the thing is you have all of your division games are at the end of the year, and I think like this loss is frustrating, but this Commanders team is good at the end of the day, and like they played like garbage, and on offense, like neither team really played that well on offense, and they just, it came down to an insane Hail Mary. Otherwise, this would have been a completely different story about how Caleb had 2 great drives at the end of the game, and if it wasn't for a weird snap, we're talking about an even bigger win.
Yep.
Like, and I think that shift is just so jarring that if he doesn't do well in the division slate at the end of the game, like if they just go like 2 and whatever in the division, I think he's gone. And I don't think it's a problem, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, but now you're having to teach Caleb a whole new offense, and it's the same thing that the Bears do all the time, where they fire the staff and they bring in a new coach, and then they don't work with the quarterback. And I'm like, okay, guys, but like, this is Caleb Williams we're talking about. This looks a little different. Like, I think that's why the water has gotten so hot so quickly, right?
Yeah, but I mean, so Eberflus is a defensive minded head coach, and it was before that Nagy was offensive minded. I think this time around you go for a guy.
The tinfoil hat theory is that they knew Ben Johnson was going to stick with the Lions to try and win a Super Bowl this year, and that if they win the Super Bowl, maybe he'll go be a head coach, and the Bears, I think, would go after him. That's like the dream scenario that like people are floating around out there, right?
I see. Anything else in your can of worms about the Bears here, Soup?
No, but you gave me enough time to get to the top of the building, so I mean, if you guys are ready.
I think we're already too long on this pod.
All right, well,
Yeah.
I'll go back down. I'll go home then.
And we saved Soup this time.
Have you seen that yet? Oh God, it's the graphic, my favorite Bears graphic. It's just like a rainbow over Buckingham Palace or Buckingham Fountain, and it's just a beautiful skyline of Chicago shot, and it's like clip art bear dropped in, and it just says "I want to die." It's my Instagram story right now. That's
I saw that earlier. I was like,
yeah,
oh, that must be that bad.
Yep, that's how I feel. So,
I'm still a little bit of Vikings.
Aren't you guys happy that we took the heat off you guys? But really, God bless the New York Jets.
Well, yeah, yes and no. It's just like, again, like we're friends, right? So like I care a little bit more about you and your well-being with being a Bears fan as you are with us as Vikings. But like besides the penalty, like the no call, now that I had hindsight and to look at game film again and highlights, I will say this: Kevin O'Connell's offenses, when they're playing scripted plays, they play very, very. Sorry, I think we might as open another can of worms. But scripted plays, they play very, very well. Hence, why you see like Sam Darnold and his offense getting like up 2 scores, right? Like 14-0. But then when it's off script, it doesn't go well at all. We haven't really thrown the ball to our second best receiver in Jordan Addison, number 3, who I felt like. He's healthy. He's doing what he needs to do, right? But he can't seem to get a time of day. And JJ is like double, triple covered in games. And our only best running back is Aaron Jones. On the flip side, defensively, our cornerbacks are old. And Harrison Smith is also old, so they can't really do the things like they used to in their prime. So our secondary is old, and when we don't have a pass rush, you leave them on an island, and hence you saw Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford tearing them in the air. And was it Puka Nacua, who was a recent activation, just catches 100+ yards and receiving that
Puka,
night.
though.
Yeah, and
it's like fresh Puka. No tread on the tires this season, Puka.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with the Vikings. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would see how you guys bounce back. I mean, I think the scripted thing is very interesting, and it's also interesting that the Bears have like the complete opposite problem, where it's like first half garbage, just garbage on offense. First half all the time. Second half looks great, like way better. Oh my god! And then it's just like, why does it take that for us to do anything?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Again,
And you guys have like the opposite problem.
it's the teams that we love that the things they do just frustrate us as fans even more. So it's
But even outside of football, well, I guess it's still inside of football, but you have the last 4 weeks, I've never seen as much criticism on officials across all sports than like these last few weeks.
Oh yeah, the
Oh, yeah.
last I would say 2
Like-
weeks especially have been bad.
And it's like all, not all, but it's so centered around Minnesota at this point, right? It's like you have the Minnesota-Michigan game, Big Ten changes where official stands. You have Lynx Liberty, right? Now you have Vikings-Rams. And then you have Ohio State-Nebraska with their blunders. So
Honestly,
mean-
of our game too, because there's a insane blindside block and hold on the end of the game on the Hail Mary that allows Jaden to run back and forth for 13 seconds.
I was about to say, I'm looking at the highlight of
didn't
Hail Mary.
Eberflus send that into the league and say like they wanted?
That's what they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they do.
Yeah, I'm
That's
looking
So
all
at
like
you
at the
can
end
do,
of the day, like what can
doesn't
that
matter.
do,
You
right?
lost. You lost. It's a soul crushing loss. It might lose Matt Eberflus's job if the bottom just falls out of this team. This was supposed to be like a huge springboard for the team if they win that game. It's hey, it wasn't pretty, but we got it done on the road. Whatever, we ride. But now it's just bad.
But also, like, this division right now, like, again, we're all in the NFC North here. Like, the Lions and the Packers are, tied for first because they both have 1 losses or something? No. Green Bay lost twice. My bad. Correction. But, like, in terms of, like, wins and losses, like, the NFC North is pretty up there in terms of total wins and then very minimal losses, too. And it's going to be harder and harder
But
as the season goes along.
We're all different variations of like good teams, if that makes sense, right? Like the Bears are just that one play away from also being, what was that, 5-2?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're 5-2, and you would think like the Vikings would blow the Bears' wins losses out of the water, like just with how their season's going. Like we're all a weird version of like good.
Yeah.
But like the Packers always find a way to close out those close games on field goals. You have the Bears who seem inept on offense at times and then also amazing. Vikings, we can cook offense, defense, or we can just collapse for a half. It's just so. This year is just weird. But I feel like we say that every year, right?
Yeah. But all right, as Griffin said earlier, I think we continued this for too long. So everyone, thank you so much for listening or watching OPA Podcast episode 90. Go enjoy this upcoming weekend here, and we'll see you guys next week to recap the Illini game and then preview our next game, which is Rutgers. So other than that, we'll see you then. Have a great night. So Soup, say bye.
Bye.
Griffin,
Peace.
Wyatt.
Oh.